Hello and welcome to my podcast called the Good Schmidt Podcast. My name is Nick, and I am here with a special guest. His name is R.J. Soderman, and I'm going to be asking you some questions. So, could you tell me about what you do here at Whitewater?
Sure. So I've got a couple different jobs on campus. One of them is I work as a academic advisor. So for new freshmen that come on campus their first year, I help them pick their classes and get them resources that they need. So if they need tutoring help, or if they need to go see a counselor for any mental health problems that they're having, answer questions about things that they have, where they can find different resources on campus, all those kinds of things. So we're kind of a one-stop shop for all of the the students that are incoming. And then my other job on campus is I coach cross country, and I also coach track and field, focusing on the jumping events and the javelin.
Yeah, I guess that leads me to my next question. What are your thoughts this year on the track team?
Yeah, so for the track team, for my group of athletes, the jumpers and the javelin kids, we've got a really good group this year. We brought back a lot of kids from last year, so I only had one senior graduate. So I think that does really well for kind of the team chemistry and kind of where I see things going. Got a couple good javelin throwers this year as well, so that's kind of one of those things here in the Midwest where kids don't throw the javelin in high school. So
yeah, true.
Yeah, so I've got to kind of train them right from the beginning and kind of get them acclimated to it to kind of figure out what it is and how it works and all that stuff. So that's always a fun process. But yeah, I think overall I see the track team, potentially doing very well, not only in the conference but also at the the national level as well.
Oh, that's great to hear. No, I was wondering, is there a specific technique that you teach for javelin?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain rules for it, that we have to abide by. So the men, they throw it's 800 grams, so which is about 1.64 pounds, and the male javelin is 8 feet long, and the women's javelin is 600 grams, and that's about 6.5 feet long. So, a lot of the stuff that we do with the training is it focuses a lot on throwing action. So we spend a lot of time just throwing med balls and doing stuff like that. But then we also spend a lot of time working on mobility. I think that's one of the biggest things that sometimes is overlooked is I don't want athletes that are kind of your standard thrower, so who are big and strong and really massive people, because with the javelin you also have to be quick. So trying to get athletes that are fast is also really important.
So it's a combination of strength and agility then.
It is, yeah. So it's kind of the perfect combination of someone who's a powerful athlete but also has to be fast at the same time.
Oh, okay. Now I'm gonna ask you a totally different question.
Sure.
I wanted to hear a military story.
A military story. Okay. So I spent a couple years in the Army. Good military story. I think probably one of the funnier ones would be we came in from a field training exercise, so they call those FTXs. So we were out in the field doing movements as an infantry platoon, and so we were moving around as a platoon doing stuff. So we were out in the field for 2 or 3 days. We came back and we were in the barracks getting stuff cleaned up, and one of the guys in our platoon was doing something that he wasn't supposed to be doing. So as is normal with that, if you're doing something you're not supposed to be, then the drill sergeants get mad, and then so you have to do PT stuff. So we were all getting yelled at, and they decided that we were going to do PT for however long they wanted us to do it for, and their stipulation was there's a thermometer in the barracks. So there's a thermostat in there for the temperature, and the temperature was set at 65 degrees, and they said we would be done with PT when the temperature went up to 70 degrees in the room. So that kind of required everybody to move and sweat as much as they possibly could. and then a couple of the guys in the platoon took it upon themselves to stand over by the thermostat and try to breathe on it to see if that would make the temperature go up at all. That didn't work really well. So that was pretty interesting. And then the drill sergeants caught on to what they were doing. So then we had to go outside and we got to go roll in the sand and run around the track. And so we just kept doing PT for probably like 3 or 4 hours.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So though they call those PT sessions smoke sessions. So they call it getting smoked. So that's always a good time. Got smoked a lot during my time, but it's part of the deal. I didn't mind it. I don't care. I like doing physical activity. So
I suppose everybody gets smoked at some point.
Yeah, it's pretty much a guarantee. You're guaranteed that you're going to be doing PT till either you barf or somebody quits or somebody passes out or something like that. That's usually about how long it takes.
I've heard you're a pretty good golfer. What's the best game of golf you've played?
Oh man, I wouldn't consider myself good at the game of golf itself. I try to play as much as I can. The best I've ever shot was my uncle. He lives out in North Carolina, and people in North Carolina love to play golf. They play year round. So I went out there and played with him, and we were playing in a tournament. And my best round was I shot a 72 once, so that's my best score. But the part of golf that I like the best is I like to drive the ball. So
oh, you like driving, yeah.
Yeah. So I participate in long drive. So I competed in the World Long Drive Championships this past year out in Mesquite, Nevada. So that was a good time. Kind of got to see some guys who can really hit the ball. I mean, I can.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, I can kind of hit it, but some of these guys are hitting it like.
Yeah, I mean, I know I can't, so I find it impressive. Those guys that can hit it a long way.
Yeah, and there's some of them that were out there that I was competing against that can hit it 430, 425, and I think I can hit the ball far, hitting it like 357, 365, but. These guys are blasting it out there at like 400 plus.
Jeez.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a good time. That's probably the part of the game I like the most is just being able to drive it long.
Oh yeah. How much can you bench and how much can you squat?
How much can I bench? I would say now. So I'm 32 now. So now I can probably, last time I tried, I haven't tried maxing out in a long time. But I think if I went in there and gave it a go right now, I could probably max out at like maybe 250. I was up to I could do 315 about 5 years ago. I was able to do 315. Squatting wise, right now I could probably do like 350 or so. In college, I did squat 475.
Oh wow!
So, but obviously, I was in a little bit better shape as
sure.
well. So, but yeah, I like. I think I think squatting is the best. I like squatting.
Yeah, I like squatting too.
It's good. Squatting's good for you.
So did you participate in javelin in college?
I did.
You did?
Yeah. So yeah, when I was competing here at UW-Whitewater, I threw the javelin. I also did the triple jump. So initially, when I came here for triple jumping, and I did that through freshman and sophomore year. And then when we got to the outdoor season my sophomore year, I picked up the javelin, and I didn't know too much about it. We didn't have a coach, so you just kind of had to figure it out on your own. We didn't really have YouTube. YouTube had just started at that time, so that was 2007, and I think YouTube started in 2003 or so.
I think it was like 2006, yeah.
Yeah, so YouTube was very new. There wasn't a whole lot out there, so
There wouldn't be.
Yeah, everything that I had to learn, I had to either read in a book or watch on a VHS tape on a tape player. So,
oh wow!
Yeah, so there were no DVDs.
Yeah, there were VHSs. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so DVDs were out at that time, but all of the information that was out there from the 80s and the 90s was on VHS tapes. So I had to watch VHS.
It was probably best to just like read a book and then practice.
Yeah,
that's what I would have done.
Yeah, that was pretty much what I did, and then I tried to find contact information for guys that were, like U.S. that made the U.S. trials for the Olympics in those years, or had previously been really good, and I would reach out to them. And it was nice because a couple of the guys that I reached out to, they were very happy and willing to send me whatever information I needed to kind of figure out how to become a better thrower. So I started off throwing 40 meters, and then by the time I got done with college, I was at 59 meters.
Oh, that's neat. Let's see. Next question is, what's the craziest thing you've seen on the job? Your concert job, I should say.
Oh, okay,
That
yeah,
job,
yeah. So my other job, so many jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Probably the craziest thing. I mean, I wouldn't say this. This isn't a good thing, but it was one of the crazier things I've seen. I was working in Denver at it was an EDM festival. It was on New Year's Eve, so I was out there working this EDM concert, and within that community, drugs is kind of a big thing.
I bet.
So there was a young man who he was 19, 20 years old. He came up to us and he was like, "Hey, I think I took a bunch of drugs and I'm not really feeling that well and whatnot." And he's like, I feel lightheaded and all this stuff. So we took him over to the medical people. They started taking care of him, and then probably within like 15 to 20 minutes, they had to call the ambulance to come and get him. And what ended up happening was he had overdosed on Molly, which it increases your internal core temperature. And what ended up happening was he took so many of them, they didn't have enough time to reverse him heating up, and he ended up dying because he ended up essentially cooking internally. So
he overheated himself? Ooh.
Yeah, so his internal body temperature was 107, and
ooh.
after about 103, 104, you start to lose brain function, and then once you get up into like the 105, everything just starts to shut down. So, unfortunately, he passed away from that, but that was probably one of the crazier things I've had to deal with.
That's quite sad. I haven't heard of that before, something like that happening to someone.
Yeah, it's not good. We try to mitigate that as much as possible, but, people are going to kind of make the choices that they make.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know who it was, someone told me to ask you your thoughts on Ram Ranch 84.
Oh my goodness.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Not my question.
My thoughts on it. Don't listen to it. It's not that good.
It's not good.
Not that good, and it's that whole series is I would call it a very creative way to be expressive.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all of those videos I guess I would just call those creative in nature, and maybe an expression of the person that makes them. I think that's the best.
Okay,
That's
so
probably
that's really what it is.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason Matthias thinks that's the best one.
Yeah, that's odd. I find that
is
odd.
So then, what kind of music do you like to listen to?
When I'm in the office, I listen to a lot of stuff. I grew up in the 90s, so I like a lot of the stuff from the 90s. So Hootie and the Blowfish, Duncan Shake. I like Rob Thomas, probably one of my favorite guys.
Oh, I've heard of him.
I like Rob Thomas a lot. Linkin Park, stuff like that. It kind of depends on what I'm doing, I guess. If I'm trying to get ready to go doing something, sometimes heavy metal. I listen to heavy metal, Mushroomhead, Slipknot, Five Finger Death Punch, Killswitch Engage, stuff like that. So that's more like, I guess they call it screamo music. I guess what it's called. Yeah. So that I listen to that kind of stuff, but I'll listen to anything, pretty much anything, except. No, I'll pretty much listen to anything. Yeah, I'm not really opposed to much. I don't really like anything that's out now. I don't listen to the radio.
I don't either.
I don't
like a lot of mainstream stuff.
Yeah, I don't quite understand it. I like a lot of the older late 80s, 90s rap. So like Tupac, Biggie, Coolio, that kind of stuff. I like those guys.
Yeah, a lot of the music I listen to is from either the late 70s or early 80s.
It's a good time for music.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
And then, what about movies? What kind of movies do you like?
Movies? Mostly war movies. So I like all the stuff about World War II, It's not necessarily a movie, but I think Band of Brothers is
Oh
one
yeah, I've
that's
seen it.
probably one of the greatest series that's ever been put together. The Pacific is also very good, which is the Battle of Guadalcanal with the Marine Corps. So that's very interesting. But all the ones that have come out recently, like 13 Hours, which is good based on the story of Benghazi and what happened there. Zero Dark 30 about Osama getting killed, which I like that one too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that one's good. I like all the people don't really like them, but I like all the Fast and the Furious movies. I thought those were all pretty good.
Yeah, I've only seen some of them, and they're pretty good. I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah, I like all of them. I prefer the original ones, like the original Fast and the Furious ones, because those came out right around the time that I was in high school.
Oh yeah.
So that was stuff that we were really into cars at that time, working on your car, making it faster, doing all that kind of stuff. So I enjoyed that stuff too.
Yeah, one of my cousins likes to modify his car. He has like a Mitsubishi Talon.
Yeah, yep, the
Yeah.
Talon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really popular car. Yeah, back in
It's
the
from
day.
like '97.
Yeah, those are nice. I like those.
Yeah. And then, what kind of books do you like to read?
Um, I read quite a wide variety. I like to read leadership books. As a coach, I think it's important to always, learn and read about what other prominent leaders have done, whether it's Patton or presidents or, anybody like CEOs. I read probably the most recent one that I just finished was it's called The American Icon, which was the rebuilding of the Ford Motor Car Company after it tanked after the recession in 2000, and kind of how they rebuilt the company from the ground up. And then I also read a book called The Gulag Archipelago, which is about the communist state in Russia and the labor camps that they have and how they imprison people for having different political views than what the current party is. So I like to read those kinds of things. Also read a couple books on, working in a college setting. I need to know sort of where students are coming from,
Oh,
right?
sure.
Because they stay the same age and I just keep getting older, So a lot of that stuff is, there was a book called Generation I that I read, which was, it talks about the relationship that students have with social media and electronics and sort of how they view themselves in the world and, and things like that. And that was an interesting book because it was very kind of eye-opening to me to see how students that are now coming into college sort of what their thought process is and what their expectations are and where they see themselves, in the grand scheme of the whole society and kind of where they feel like they fit in and, and stuff like that. So I try to stay up on things that are current or, I like historical books too, but, a lot of the stuff is I try to read what I think could be pertinent to jobs that I have. That's probably
sure.
the most important stuff. Yeah, and I like to read. I like to listen to medical journals. So I listen to like the New England Journal of Medicine. They have a podcast. Listen to that to kind of keep up on medical stuff because I work as a paramedic for a local fire department. So I like to kind of know what's going on.
Oh, that's really interesting. I think that was it for all my questions. So, thank you for your time, RJ. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. It was a good time, and hopefully we can revisit it again.
Yeah. Take care.
All right. We'll see ya.
Yeah.